My name is Wes Rodriguez.
I'm Marin Flores.
This is the No Title Show. We are recording in the Four Color Fan Bookstore. And with us today is
Chris Brady.
And I think I'm going to lead off the show with an email. We've asked for your feedback, and we have had one response. And it's my mother. How awesome is that?
Leave it to mother.
And mothers don't hold back. If any of you are familiar with the term complisalt, that is what I'm going to describe this email as. Complisalt is a compliment and an insult all wrapped up together.
Wow.
My mom is amazing at that. She knows how to make you feel good and
what mother isn't?
Bring it down a notch or two. She can't help but be, and there is a positive to that. She doesn't lie, and she doesn't try to build you up falsely. She'll lay it on you straight. That way you know exactly where she's coming from, and you can take her word as
I've never met her, and I fear the woman already.
So I'm just going to launch into it. Heading, No Title Show. Hi, I'm sorry. I just couldn't get past the language, but I'll give you a few first impressions. Bullet point 1. I think your idea for this show is great. I think there is a place for it today if you can get a following. Bullet point. However, the American public has an attention span to get hooked and stay with some soundbite or just a few seconds, so you've got to hook your audience right away. I'm not probably your typical listener. I got turned off when I could sense a lull in your voice, Wes, while you tried to think of what you wanted to say next. I don't know what type of listener you were trying to attract, but the language right off the bat with no particular cultural point is not a good draw. I don't have time for that, especially if I could see it as only for effect and it isn't used to convey a point. Bullet point. I really like your music lead-in, but it is too long. Gotta hook that audience. There's too much competition out there. People won't stay with you if they don't get why you're on the air. Have a script. Keep to it. Start out coming to an agreement with your co-host how you're going to handle your time on the air, and get to the point rapidly. Like I said, the competition for people's time is too great. Bullet point. It's hard to hear what others are saying. The volume of the voices is not the same. It should be easy to hear everyone in the sound field. At one point, it sounded like there been a whole room of people. I really like that effect. Even though it wasn't the case, it lent a sense of legitimacy to what you were doing. Bullet point. I think your voices play well off each other, but get rid of the foul language. Use it when you want to make a point. It loses its impact when you pepper the speech with every other word of profanity. I'm looking forward to your interview with the comic book store owner. He might not agree to having it aired if it isn't going to help his business, though. After all, mothers bring their sons to the comic book store. The way you described the event he had is not trying to attract low-life, uneducated druggies. True. He is trying to attract a family-type crowd. Don't forget to get something in writing that you have the client's permission to air their stuff. Don't take the attitude that we'll worry about that later. You need to consider actualities if you want this to fly. Be professional and make this work. If you start out flying by the seat of your pants, you'll just be a flash in the pan. It happens every day. Head for success and plan so that you may maximize the potential for that success. Don't be afraid to be criticized. Grow from the input you get. That's my 2 cents. I love you, Mom. So, everything she said there is a legitimate point.
She makes valid points.
Absolutely.
Especially, especially keeping it business-wise, That's no matter what your hobby is, if you're trying to make a living at it, that's what you have to do.
Right.
Make it a business first.
That's right. Marketing,
second.
Take it seriously, professionally. However, podcasting is like a living room conversation that you have with your friends that mothers you're hoping aren't listening to.
Correct. it's supposed to be sit down, have a conversation, and somebody much a radio show broadcast, i.e. Rush Limbaugh or anything like that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess I should lead off with, do I have your permission to put your voice on the internet on my show?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
And your name is?
Christopher Brady.
Thanks for validating that.
Are we mentioning that this is a Mother's Day special?
This is a Mother's Day special.
This is a Mother's Day special.
So, as we are progressing into the show, you guys are going to hear little differences and nuances that I've added specifically for this show. I'm not going to implement them in future shows. I'm going to make some adjustments. That way, you know what, I feel like I'm honoring Mom. I'm going to take into consideration in future shows, and we'll see if we can clean it up a bit, get to the point. I'm going to be taking more special attention towards post-production and editing out certain things and editing in new things. Had a new addition to the show just come in, Chris's co-worker, Chris. Say hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Like I said, we're actually recording in the comic book shop today, and
this is our second time on location doing something like this. So if you hear little jilts and jolts in here and there, then you're gonna, hopefully you'll understand that this is a new thing for us. So roll with it, go with it.
So when I was about 15. I discovered the wonderful world of drugs and alcohol. When it came to things that I could turn into cash or
trade,
drug
pilfer,
value,
pillage.
Comics was top of that list.
It wouldn't begin or end with my things too, which kind of created some resentment in my family. My mom lost some money from her wallet, I'm sure she eventually became aware of. Because of that departure from the real world, things that I considered dear, like my comic book collection, ended up getting turned in for its monetary value, which wasn't much at the time. But I did take that money and go buy weed from it, which probably lasted a couple of days. And
I have a question. When you traded these, did you trade them back to a store?
I did.
Oh, okay. So you didn't take them to your dealer.
So some shady comic shop dealer was like, "Oh, I know what this guy's turning these comics."
And when you walk in shaking and Jones in, he knows he's going to get the upper hand.
I'm not going to lie. I've seen those people. And yes, my conscience tells me not to take their comics, but sometimes it's kind of hard because they'll take whatever they can get for.
Yeah. The pawn shop wouldn't take these, because what did they worth?
Jones on heroin right now. But, yeah, no.
So I'm trying to fill that void in my life. I've come to sobriety, and there are things that I've done in the past that I regret, and one of those things is being an artist myself and loving the comic book world.
A very good artist. Don't sell yourself short. You're very good.
I think it was about a year ago, I walked into Four Colors Fantasies, located where?
Rancho Cucamonga, California. The last stop on any Bugs Bunny train.
Okay.
You got a phone number?
Cucamonga. Yeah, 909-563-8751.
And that's where I met Chris here, as well as his co-worker, Chris.
I remember your first day you came in.
It was cool. It was really exciting coming back into that world, seeing all the characters around me. Sure. What actually pushed me to go out and look for the store was hearing that DC has done a reboot on 52 of their titles.
Yes. Very, very good reboot of their entire line of comic books. So,
if a customer were to walk in the door and say, "My child, I'd like to expose them to the world of comic books," how would they get started, and how would you describe to them?
Well, I would tell them that DC has taken all their characters and relaunched them at issue 1 with new backgrounds, new stories that are being written, and they're only 9 issues in right now. So it's easy for you as a non-comic book reader to be able to go, "Hey, I want to start comic books, and here's the place to start. And I'm able to give you a graphic novel with the first 6, or give you the first 6 issues, so you know the story from the very beginning, as opposed to, you know, Detective Comics was on 800 and something issues. You know, Action Comics was at 900 something, almost 1,000 issues long. So I mean, the idea of relaunching with these characters from the very beginning gives a whole new generation a chance to grow up with these characters with modernized backgrounds. It's no longer, you know, the old 40s pictures of Superman, you know, busting over bank robbers and stuff like that, or the whole bubblegum pop idea of the 60s comic books, you know, where it's like, I'm gonna beat up the bad, you know, bad guy does something bad, nobody dies, but it's bad, and, you know, Superman comes and saves the day and flies him off to jail. You know, it's like, these are stories that are relatable to kids who are in the modern world right now.
This day and age.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's kind of like Marvel did the same kind of thing with their Ultimate Universe. You know, they didn't do it to the extent that DC's done it. DC said, you know, we're not going to do 2 different universes running at one time. We're going to do, this is our universe. And Marvel did that with their Ultimate line, which was they updated backgrounds. They, you know, instead of a radioactive spider, it was a genetically mutated spider, and things like that. You know, I mean, more along the lines of their movies as opposed to, you know, the old school comic books. And I think DC, just the fact that they just said, screw it, we're doing it to all of it, you know, and put that investment in it, makes it a little bit stronger of a sell than the Ultimate Universe was.
Do you have a more adult following, or do you have a more a younger generation?
Well, the medium itself is, you know, themed, just because our readership has dwindled off. The newer readers, you know, you still have parents bringing their kids and stuff in, but not as much. You know, there's so many other forms of entertainment competing for that dollar. Right. You know, I still get parents who bring their kids in who have never read comics, you know, and kids who, and the thing is, every kid knows these characters.
Yeah.
They just, the fact that there's not that many stores around, or the fact that, you know, we've gotten to the point where we've sucked the market to where it's been, it doesn't allow people to go out to the corner and pick up a comic book, you know, or, you know, one thing is, you know, a lot of dealers don't like newsstand, which is like Barnes and Nobles and things like that, and you know what, I remember going to Circle K and there being a
Barnes and
spinner.
Nobles have comic books?
They do.
Really?
They do. They are a week behind us on releases.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
That's to give the
So that
direct
gives
market
you the advantage.
give
Oh,
direct
wow.
market a chance to actually, you know, stay alive and be breathing, as opposed to it all going to Barnes and Nobles. But you know, the thing was, when we were growing up, we had spinner racks in 7-Eleven. You know, Stater Brothers. I remember going to Stater
yes,
Brothers. That's where I bought my
I
comics
remember
when I was
those.
really little. You
Baskin
know,
Robbins.
pester my mom until she got me a comic book while she's shopping. You know, things like that. And you know, you don't see that anymore.
No.
Comics are now regulated to bookstores and comic book shops.
Right.
And that's pretty much it, you know. So it's not out there to the world. And that's one of the things DC did that, you know, a lot of people don't agree, but they do digital along with print release on the same day. Their digital ideas are not to take current readers and make them into digital readers. That's not what they're after. What they said they're after, and which I agree to some extent, is to put comic books out there in the face of everybody, you know, and say, hey, look here's comic books. They're still there, you know.
Right.
At the end of your book, it tells you, do you want to buy it in print? And it tells you where the nearest comic book shop, things like that. So I think that they're trying to get more readers into the stores to begin with, period. Because print makes them way more money than digital does, and they know that, and they want to keep print alive. So
Because a percentage of the fan base is primarily looking for the collective value of the comic book. And
well, that's what when you think of comic books, you think of collectibility.
Right.
So I mean,
Right.
that's first and foremost in anybody who comes into a
Right.
store's mind.
Right.
Well, I mean, not everybody, but I mean, the vast majority of the people, you know, they bag and board them, they protect them.
Right.
You know, it's all about the collecting of it. You know, and some
Right.
of us, you know, are readers first.
Well, I'm looking along the top of your wall here, and I see all these little statues and action figures and stuff that and they're all in the boxes, and so I would figure, you know, when someone buys one, I doubt they're taking it home and they're playing with it, you know.
No, I mean, those are display
you know,
pieces, but,
right.
you know, I mean, you have people who do buy action figures and leave them in the plastic cases, which,
Right.
Yeah.
I've never understood that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 40 years old, I still play with my action figures. You know,
Right.
it's ridiculous.
I'm along both lines. I'll buy 2